Have you ever wondered what a man truly gives when he sleeps with someone? It is not just the body, not performance. What he offers, often without realizing it, is his inner world. A self that is hungry for affirmation, for closeness, for the feeling of being chosen. But that offering disguises itself as desire, as craving, as impulse. It looks physical, but it is not just skin touching skin. There is a deeper current moving underneath. Because at his core, a man's deepest longing is not sex. It is to be seen, to be felt, to be recognized as whole, even in his brokenness. Men who lower themselves in devotion before a woman's body are not chasing pleasure alone. They are chasing the affection they never received. It appears physical, but it is psychological. It appears like desire, but it is inherited emptiness wearing the mask of power. When intimacy is real, it strips away the theater of performance and exposes the fragility behind the armor. And it is in that raw moment that Jungian psychology reveals itself. The body as a messenger, the shadow as a mirror, visible only to the one brave enough to pierce the mask and face the cutting truth. Carl Jung never viewed desire as mere instinct. He saw intimacy as a bridge between realms, the conscious and the unconscious. He wrote that every intimate act reveals far more than it seems. To Jung, desire is not born in the body, it is born in the psyche. Every movement, every impulse has roots buried deep in the unconscious. Intimacy is an exchange of intention, of shadow, of emotional weight. And when the wrong woman enters your life, what should have been nourishing becomes draining, physically, emotionally, spiritually. In this video, you will understand why so many men feel empty after intimacy, why there is a fatigue that does not come from the body. It comes from the inner self. Because every time you surrender without awareness, without real presence, you trade pieces of yourself for small moments of validation. The feminine body is a temple, but so is yours. And when two temples meet without consciousness, inner chaos is born. You are not just sharing a moment, you are opening gateways, and not all gateways lead to safe ground. As this journey unfolds, you will begin to see what was always there, but never taught how to read. When a man truly surrenders in closeness, he does not just reveal his body. He exposes hidden chambers of the soul, the fear of rejection, the insecurity hidden behind strength, the silence heavy with an unseen past. Visceral intimacy is not about sex. It is about feeling exposed on the inside. Because in that glance, in that pause between touch and breath, the invisible child emerges, the one who only wanted to be loved without having to earn it. And that is far more frightening than physical nakedness. How many men, in that moment of truth, collapse inwardly while their face remains steady? The mask of strength does not fall through noise. It dissolves in silence. A single touch can awaken echoes of abandonment. A small gesture can uncover an emotional wound he never learned how to name. Jung said the unconscious is always speaking. In intimacy, it does not whisper. It demands attention. The body becomes the stage where the inner self expresses its hidden pain. This is why many men retreat when closeness deepens. Because intimacy forces confrontation with the inner mirror, and not everyone is ready to see who they truly are. The weakening of masculine certainty does not begin with a crisis. It begins with a single touch that slips through the cracks in the armor, and when that happens, something begins to stir. But that awakening is only the beginning. Most men were taught that giving pleasure is about technique, about doing it right, about proving worth through performance. But true desire, the kind that connects, the kind that heals, goes far deeper. Offering pleasure can be a sacred act, a doorway back to a forgotten part of the self. Because at the core, every man carries a tender side the world taught him to hide. Jung called this the feminine within the man. And here is the paradox. When a man truly surrenders in intimacy, he does not only connect with her, he reconnects with that hidden part of himself. Sacred pleasure is not about control. It is about overwhelming presence. It is when the body becomes a guide, an emotional mirror where no mask survives. And in that ritual of closeness, something awakens that no performance can imitate. This is where desire stops being flesh and becomes soul. Ritual intimacy does not begin in the body. It begins in listening without words, in allowing exiled sensitivity to return, It is not about proving anything, it is about remembering who you are beneath the fractured armor. And when that happens, pleasure becomes restoration. Yet for many men, that still feels too dangerous. Many say they want love, but beneath that desire lives a deeper hunger for approval. Desire is not only born from connection, but from inherited lack, the desperate need to finally be chosen. As if in every bond, the inner child waits to hear, "I see you, you matter." And this is where the trap forms. Because when the need to be loved outweighs the ability to love oneself, the man begins to erase himself. He bends, he adapts, he trades his essence for acceptance. You have seen that man, always available, always giving, always kind, and still overlooked. He is not wrong, he is trapped. Excessive kindness is often pain disguised as virtue. He is not loving, he is pleading through performance. And this is where projection turns dark. He expects the other to rescue him from his lack of self-worth. But that never works. It takes courage to ask, what am I trying to prove? Because sometimes the perfect partner mask is just self-esteem in ruins. When a man sees this, the performance collapses. He steps into raw presence. The part of him that does not need perfection to be worthy. But to reach that place, he must face his shadow. And this is where everything changes. Jung wrote one of the most uncompromising truths in psychology. What you do not make conscious will appear in your life as fate. This is what happens to countless men. They believe they are choosing, but they are only repeating unhealed patterns. The shadow, the rejected, wounded self, takes control quietly. And every relationship becomes a replay of old pain. This is why intimacy can feel dangerous. Not because the other is harmful, but because the inner wounds remain open. He approaches with strength on the surface, but inside, something is collapsing. He looks outward for a solution to an emptiness he has never faced. In this inner conflict, the body becomes either a wall or a bridge. It all depends on whether emotional exposure is seen as a threat or as an invitation to heal. The shadow is not what you hate. It is what you refuse to face. The fear of weakness, the panic of rejection, the quiet hunger for approval, all of it waits in the unconscious. And where does it emerge? In intimacy, where nothing can hide. Where does it emerge? In the touch that awakens memory. In the emotional mirror of closeness. In the repeated choices that look like coincidence, but never are. Every man at some point projects onto another what he has not yet discovered within himself. Without realizing it, he looks at a woman and turns her into everything. Lover, nurturer, confidant, rescuer. But the problem is not love. The problem is expecting another human being to fill what is empty inside. That is not love. That is the shadow projecting an inherited absence, a silent hunger for an affection he never fully lived. And that projection almost always ends in disappointment. Because when you place someone on a pedestal, you are no longer seeing them. You are only seeing the reflection of your own unhealed inner world. That idealization becomes an emotional cage. The first mistake shatters the illusion. The man who once saw perfection now feels bitterness. Attraction slowly turns into resentment. Not because she changed, but because he tried to find outside what he was meant to awaken within himself, his dormant instinct, his suppressed sensitivity, his deep inner presence. In this desperate search for completeness, many men lose themselves. They confuse intensity with love, emptiness with connection, attention with salvation. But no woman, no matter how remarkable, can become a true mirror for a man who has not yet met himself. The mirror begins within, and to face that reflection honestly requires a courage most men avoid. Most men spend their lives waiting to be affirmed. A compliment, a choice, a gentle touch that silently says, "You matter." But the truth is sharp and unavoidable. Validation borrowed from the outside never lasts. What comes from the outside can always disappear. True healing begins the moment a man realizes he no longer needs to chase affection, because the hunger to be chosen only dissolves when he chooses himself first. Self-knowledge is not theory, it is a lived discipline. To look inward with raw awareness, to listen without noise, to face the inner void without escaping. It is there, where the inner world feels broken, that genuine masculine awakening begins. Closeness stops being a performance and becomes honesty. Attraction, when born from within, does not beg. It invites. It moves with ease. It becomes expression, not compensation. That is when intimacy transforms into ritual. No longer an escape, but a return. Where meaningful pleasure comes not from lack, but from wholeness. Where the shadow becomes guidance and silence turns into insight. But to reach that place, a man must pass through the ego's fortress and remove one by one the masks of forced strength. And along that path, he uncovers what the world tried to suppress, his unfiltered humanity. Not every woman deserves access to your body, far less to your inner energy. When intimacy is unconscious, it becomes an open exchange where your life force slowly leaks away without you noticing. There are women carrying unresolved emotional wounds, attached to chaos, disconnected from themselves, holding deep inner emptiness. And when you merge with that emptiness, it consumes your clarity, your strength, your sense of direction. You leave feeling more depleted than before, yet you still label it pleasure. What she has lived, her emotional patterns, the unexamined baggage she carries, all of it is stored within her presence. And closeness becomes the gateway through which those influences enter your life quietly. You are not just engaging with a body, you are connecting with an inner world, its history, its pain, its unresolved weight. If you are not aware, that exchange becomes distortion. You feel drained, unfocused, disconnected, without understanding why. It means nothing to have physical discipline, surface confidence, or spiritual phrases on your profile if your choices remain unconscious. What is required is discernment, presence, a higher standard of choice. Because as long as you offer yourself simply to numb your emptiness, your inner world will remain fractured. One day, you may realize parts of you had never returned from where you gave them away. Now ask yourself honestly, how many times did you give yourself believing it was only desire, yet left feeling more lost? How many times did you mistake stimulation for connection and shared your energy with someone who could not even care for their own inner state? The answer may sting, but it can also liberate you, because from this moment on, you cannot say you were unaware. You now understand, intimacy is not casual, it is ritual. The body carries wisdom, and every intimate choice either rebuilds you or pulls you deeper into your own depths. Now the decision is yours. Will you continue offering your whole self to someone who only wants fragments? Or will you finally require a level of awareness worthy of your inner world? If this message stirred something inside you, comment the line that spoke to your core. Share this with the men who are still asleep. Subscribe, because what we explore here is not just about intimacy. It is about who you are when no one is watching, not performance, presence.